Hey everyone, Brock here. Welcome back to what is hopefully our final installation of setting up our end of trimester exams. And it's hopefully in this section we're going to be reaping the rewards from our hard work in setting up the question bank and importing all of our questions and getting everything done and dusted. So in our last video, we essentially had a look and explored all of the settings within our exam and got it all nice and set up. What I'm going to do is click on my exam, and we can see here, like, there's the description that I placed in here. We've got the number of attempts, when the quiz is open and closed. We're going to need a password. There's all sorts of information, but there's also a big problem. No questions have been added. So let's fix that. What we're going to do is click on the gear cog at the top right here, and we are going to click Edit Quiz. Now, what we can see here is obviously there are no questions. So how do we add them? So what we do is down the bottom here, we're going to click Add. Now we have three options here. I'm going to click a random question. And why I'm doing it this way, I will explain in a moment. Now, it's asking us, okay, we want to add a question, but from which category? This is why we went to all of that effort to make all of these categories in the question bank and separate them based on modules. Because a big problem is, let's say I want to make a massive random end of trimester exam worth, let's say 100 questions, covering everything from the entire course. And I have over 600 questions in the question bank. A big problem here is I would personally want a relatively even distribution of questions across the entire trimester. So if I have 100 questions, I have 10 weeks of content, because healthcare is 10 weeks, then what we want to do is have 10 questions per week for 100 questions total. But if I'm just telling the quiz to just grab random questions from a single question bank, we're unable to do that. It means some students could get far more of one type of question from one type of category than another one. So by having it overly random, it's actually not equitable for the students. Now, there is a solution around this, because what we can do is, I can tell Moodle, I want you to, out of these categories, I want you out of this category here, I want you to grab 2 questions. And I can click Add Random Questions. So what we have essentially just told Moodle is, out of our categories, for question 1 and question 2, I want you to, from this category, choose 2 completely random questions. And then for the next 2, we can say, I want you to choose 2 completely random questions from this category. And we can rinse and repeat this over and over and over again. Now, what have we essentially done here? Well, we have, at the moment, sort of 30 questions in our question bank, because I've put 6 questions in all 5 modules, and we have a 10 question quiz. So instead of just saying, out of the possible 30 questions, just grab 10 at random, we have told Moodle, out of the total 10 questions, 2 of them must be randomized from our heart column, 2 of them must be randomized from the kidney column, 2 of them from GIT, 2 from reproduction, 2 in respiratory. What this means is that you can have an entirely random exam that will be completely different from each student, but there will still be an even and equal distribution of questions per module. So it means that you can increase that randomness, but it's still going to be fair for all the students. Now, we can take this another level by hitting shuffle. What this will do is change the order in which we see these. So for instance, even though these questions are completely random, question 1 and question 2 will definitely be from the heart. Question 3, question 4 will definitely be for renal, and so on and so forth. I personally don't shuffle mine. I like that certain degree of structure, even though the rest is completely random. But if you just want to completely schmoosh and just shuffle and randomize everything, if you click shuffle, this will shuffle and randomize which order these 10 are presented in. This can be very effective in preventing student-student communication. So for one student to say, hey, what heart question did you get? I got this one because I know heart was first. So by shuffling that, it creates another degree of randomization. So to be clear, what have we done so far in terms of randomization? Well, 1, for our multiple choice questions, the options by default are shuffled. So options A, B, C, and D will all be randomized per question. The next level is we have randomized which questions the quiz is pulling them out of per module. So we can see, and that this is why we sort of went to such lengths to set up our categories in the question bank. And then the third level of randomization is that the questions themselves are going to be shuffled in terms of the order that they are presented. This is the best way that I have found to be able to randomize a series of questions without disadvantaging those students that are trying to do the right thing. Now, we do have some other options here. You can choose to add a new question, and this allows you to literally just add a brand new question to the quiz itself. I personally recommend against doing this. I always prefer to add a new question to the question bank because it means that you can use that question in multiple exam types. The second option is from a question bank. This is useful if you want a set question to be non-randomized, to be sort of set and structured. So if I was to choose add from a question bank, and we can choose one of our categories here, and let's just tick this one. What that will do is all of our questions are randomized, but every single student will have this question for question 11. So this is again another way that you can control and have a degree of structure in what is a very random exam. Once we're finished, I've decided that all of my multiple choice questions here will be worth 1 mark. But let's say I want to add some of those short answer questions. Well, again, we can do that. I go add a random question. And we can then, from our category, look at our short answer question. Let's say each of our short answer questions here are worth 5 marks. So I can choose to add 1 short answer question from this section, and we can allocate that 5 marks. Let's add another one from our other short answer question module and add a random question. So what we have essentially done here is we have told our Moodle exam to grab 2 random multiple choice questions from each of our 5 multiple choice categories, then take 1 short answer question from our first short answer category and another short answer question from our second short answer category. And we have made those 5 marks each. So this would be a 20-mark exam with 10 multiple choice and 2 short answers. Now, the big advantage of doing your exams in this way, having this sort of randomization, is if I save this exam and we make our maximum grade out of 20, if I save this exam and we go back and we have a look and we've set it up, everything is good, but then suddenly we get a massive burst of inspiration and we go, oh my God, I want to add more questions. We go back to our main course page and we go, oh my God, I want to add so many more questions into my question bank. So if I start going into these different categories here and adding in new questions, which I'll just do as random, click save. There we go. I'm adding all these new questions. The best thing is that exam that we made, which I put down here in assessment summary, this exam, we don't need to change that because the specific instructions that we gave this quiz was out of whatever group, grab a certain number of random questions, which means if you are adding questions, if you're removing questions, if you're editing questions, you don't then need to go back and edit your exam because none of the questions are stored here. It's just a reference point to say, we want the exam to search the question bank So as long as the question bank has, a certain number of questions and that's sort of stable in that way, you don't need to touch this again. The last part I just want to discuss very briefly is how to link and share your exam. So what we can see here is that under assessment summary, I've got assessment tile. What we can do is, with my exam here, I can right click and open in a new tab. Now we can see I have my exam open, but we also have a URL at the top here. This is the address that says this is where your exam lives. So I'm just going to highlight that and copy. And if I want to create a link for students to access this, let's say in my table, I'm going to click Edit Settings. And where it says End of Trimester Exam, I'm just going to highlight this and I'm going to click Link. Now, this URL that we copied before, I'm just going to paste that here and click Open in New Window. Create link and save. Now, if I mouse over this and I click, we can see it opened up as a new window and the exam is there ready to go. So this is a good way to sort of help signpost and address the students to access your end of trimester exam. Please click here. And you can just simply hyperlink the exam using this URL, which is what I just did. So guys, I do hope that you found these couple of videos useful. I do understand that it is a lot of information and that there is a lot of setup, but the real sort of benefit or promise to this is that once it's set up, you're good to go. You can just sort of edit and tweak these questions. And indeed, by breaking down all of these questions per module, let's say if I had a mid-trimester exam that only did the first 2 of 5 modules, well, all of those questions are still in the question bank, they're all randomized, so I could just create a new exam and say, instead of randomizing from all 5, I could just tell it to choose from the first 2. So again, by having that further sort of organization of your question bank, it gives you far more control into what quizzes and what questions you want to set up and how sort of randomized you want it to be. So guys, I do hope this was useful. If you know of any improvements or something better in terms of setting up your exams, please do let me know. Or if there's anything else you would like me to cover or re-explain, by all means, please don't hesitate to reach out and get in touch with me and I'll do my best to help. So guys, best of luck in setting up your end of trimester exams and I'll see you soon.